this Christmas season as a church, we've been in the first chapter of John's Gospel, which isn't a typical place that you turn to at this time of year, because John, he kind of talks about the arrival of Jesus in a very different way. But as we've been doing that, we've been thinking about Jesus as this gift that we receive at Christmas time. And to help us kind of get our heads around that, we've also been thinking about the different kinds of gifts that we receive, particularly at Christmas. We started thinking about those unexpected gifts. You know, those gifts that arrive under the tree. They might be practical. They may serve a purpose, but we don't get that excited about them. It's kind of like those presents that you get from your nan. Maybe a pair of pants or some socks or something like that. They're super practical. Everyone needs a pair of pants, let's be honest. They're super practical, but they're not the gift, not the thing that we are longing for. And as we reflected on that, we realized that Jesus was a fairly unexpected gift. He didn't arrive how people expected. He didn't arrive how people expected a savior or a Messiah to arrive. We also been thinking about some of those gifts that we received that perhaps we would rather return. Those kinds of gifts where the response that we have when someone gives it to us is like, oh, you shouldn't have. And because, you know, the person giving you the gift thinks that's a mark of gratitude, but actually what you're saying is, no, you really shouldn't have. And statistically speaking, there's a good chance you will receive a gift like that in the next couple of days. And as we thought about that and as we've reflected on that fact, we were reminded that those who were waiting for Jesus, you know, Jesus was talked about for hundreds of years before he arrived. The prophets spoke of a time where God would send a savior, a Messiah. Those who were waiting, expecting Jesus, actually rejected him. He didn't come how they believed he would. He didn't come as like a military leader who was ready to kind of overthrow the oppression that his people were under. And so they rejected him as a gift. And really what we've been trying to do over the last number of weeks, particularly over this Advent season, is to think about the gift of Jesus. And like any gift, a gift has to be received. It has to be received by us. And the gift of Jesus was the best gift God could have given. Even if those around Jesus at the time didn't see him or saw him as this unexpected gift or maybe a gift that they would sooner return. John chapter 1 and verse 11, it says this: he came to those which were his own, but his own did not receive him. That's where it talks about Jesus being this gift that wasn't received. But then verse 12 says this, it says, yet to all who received him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or of a husband's will, but born of God. And so as we kind of finish up this Advent season, thinking about gifts, thinking about the gift that Jesus was, and as we ponder that, as we head into Christmas in the next couple of days, I just want to focus in on verse 12. It says, yet to all who received him, he gave the right to become children of God. You know, the only way to celebrate the gift of Jesus is to receive him as the gift he is. And so in a few days' time, you're probably going to receive a number of gifts in different forms. from different people, from different members of your family, perhaps. And when those gifts are given, the normal response is for you to receive those gifts and open them and to unwrap them. But can you imagine receiving a gift from someone and never opening it? You receive this gift, but you don't do anything with it. And then say, perhaps in a week's time, the person who gave you this gift says, "Hey, did you receive the gift that I sent you?" And you're like, "Yeah, you know what? I just haven't opened it yet." And they're like, "Well, really? You haven't opened it yet?" I put a lot of time and effort and thought into that gift. And it'd be really great if you would open it. And you're like, yeah, sure, I will do it this week. And the week goes by and then this friend contacts you and says, "Hey, what did you think of the gift?" And you're like, "You know what? I didn't open it. I haven't opened it. I still haven't opened it." And eventually, the weeks, they turn into months until the person who gave you this gift realizes they haven't given you a gift at all because you haven't received it. They may have made this gift available to you, but unless you take that gift and unwrap it, it never becomes anything of any use or benefit. God gave his Son to the world, the scriptures teach us, so that we would receive a wonderful gift. The gift of God coming and walking amongst us, becoming like us, living a perfect life and paying a price that we could not pay. And as a result of us being able to receive that gift, we become heirs of a kingdom. It says those who believe are given the right, John says, to become children of God. To become children of God. So how do we receive this gift? That's what I just want to quickly think of 3 ways that we might receive this gift of Jesus that's given to us. That it wouldn't just sit there unwrapped, but actually we would unwrap the gift that Jesus is and receive it. So the first way that we receive this gift is to receive with gratitude because you didn't pay for it. Anyone ever felt that awkward moment when you receive an unexpected gift and that gift in value far outweighs anything you could have given in return to the gift giver? And you look at that gift and you think they've spent a lot of money. They've spent way more money than I could ever have spent. And as you receive that gift, you simply have to acknowledge it as a gift that you could not afford yourself. And all you can do is receive it with gratitude. By leaving heaven and coming to earth in human flesh, God did exactly that. He offers us all a gift that none of us can afford to pay for. And so our only response to that gift is to receive it with gratitude. We can't outgive this gift. All we can do is be super grateful. That's all we can do. We can only be grateful for the gift that we received. So how do we express that gratitude this Christmas? How do we express that gratitude individually? Well, if you would call yourself someone who follows Jesus, you're someone who's received him as a gift, then maybe the place you start is to be grateful for the things that he's put in your life, the things that he's put your way, the people, the opportunities he's brought to you. There are simple things, aren't they, that we so often take for granted. Simple things that God graces us with on a daily basis. And we're to be grateful for the gift that is Jesus. What are we to be grateful for as a church family? You know, the Lord's done some wonderful things amongst us in 2024. 2024 has been a really special year for us as a church family, especially as we've continued to grow, you know, as a diverse community, young and old and different ethnicities and different groups of people. It's just been a joy to watch. You know, this time last year, we hadn't even launched as a church. We were still kind of meeting in secret and undercover, you know, and so we've been super grateful for what the Lord has done. And we're expectant, aren't we? We're expectant in the midst of our gratitude, we're expectant for what he might do in 2025. You know, one of the things we're super excited about is the launching of our youth ministry. You know, we've just got a number of young people who are part of our church community, and we just want to do our very best to serve them and give ourselves to them in different ways. And so super excited about that happening in 2025. And so we are to receive all that, knowing that Jesus is the one who's that true gift that God has given us. And we're to receive it with full gratitude. The other way we receive this gift is to receive with humility, because you can't afford it. You know, it takes humility to receive a gift you can't afford. You know, the instability of our economy has affected so many people this year. Many who would never have thought they would be the ones have found themselves in need. We live in an era, don't we, where we have the working poor. Those who work hard, those who work long hours and still struggle to make ends meet. Yet in a world where some have and some have not, the truth is none of us can afford the gift that Jesus offers to us. All of us, regardless of our social, economic status, find ourselves in the same position of humility in order to receive what God has offered us. This might be best captured in the words of the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 9. He says, "Thanks be to God for his indescribable gift." That's a direct reference to Jesus, this gift that we've been thinking about. In Jesus, we are given an indescribable gift, a gift that none of us can afford. And as someone once said, all of us are like beggars looking for a meal, aren't we? When it comes to the gift that Jesus is. And so we receive this gift with gratitude, we receive it with humility, but lastly, we receive it with joy because you don't deserve it. Let's look back at that passage. It says, "Yet to all who received him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God." These verses point to our sonship, our daughtership. That isn't a result of bloodline. It's not a decision or action of men. But it's a decision of God. This passage is using language of adoption. Now we have been conditioned, haven't we, in our culture to think if we receive something, we have to earn it in some way. We have to, if we gain something, then it has to be earned. But there are some gifts that none of us can earn. And that imagery of adoption captures this. You know, when a parent chooses to adopt a child, it doesn't come with conditions. They don't say to that child, right, we're going to adopt you, but first, this is what you can do. This is what you can do for us. That child is received by their parents unconditionally. And they're given the right to become the child of those parents. Romans 8:15 says, "For you did not receive a spirit that makes you a slave again to fear, but you received a spirit of sonship, adoption. And by him, we cry, Abba, Father. Many of you will know that word Abba, it's got nothing to do with a Swedish pop group, but it's an Aramaic word. It's a word of endearment towards God. It has a meaning like daddy or dad. This adoption we receive isn't some formal arrangement or some legal process. Through adoption, God the Father becomes dad. He becomes as close as a dad. It's as personal as a dad. Verse 16, the Spirit himself testifies with our spirit that we're God's children. Now, if we are children, then we are heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ, if indeed we share in his suffering, in order that we may also share in his glory. You see, and the joy is found when we realize we have received the full rights as children of God. We have become heirs of his kingdom. That's why we receive the gift God has given to us in Jesus Christ with joy. He chose us not because we deserve it, not because of what we do or don't do, simply because he loves us, simply because he is pursuing us. And so as you give and receive gifts this Christmas, some will be unexpected. They might be super practical and they might be really, really helpful, but they're not what you're expecting. They're not necessarily been the things that you're longing for. Some gifts you will receive this Christmas, you might want to return. And my tip is to put a gift receipt in the bag so people can do that. But let's remember the real gift of this season, God himself in human flesh. Jesus Christ, as we've sang and read this evening, Jesus Christ, born of a virgin, born in poverty so that he could identify with our poverty, living a very human existence, but in doing so, he did that perfectly so that he could ultimately pay the price the rest of us should have paid. So that as we believe, as we put our trust in him, we can be given the rights to become children of God.